Thanks for coming to the webinar of Android programming from JPassion.com. Today's topic is Android Search Framework. So these are the list of topics that we are going to cover in this presentation and hands-on map. So let's talk about the Android Search Framework. Android platform comes with Android Search Framework that provides a comprehensive set of functionality and features. So Android Search Framework provides, first of all, search dialog, which means you don't have to create your own search dialog yourself in your application. And the search dialog is also customizable. It also provides interaction layer that communicates your application. For example, when a user typed in search query string, it is the search framework that captures the query string and then it passes the string to your application so that your application actually performs the search. So these are the list of customization features. So you can certainly customize search dialog characteristics. You can enable voice search, and you can also provide search suggestions based on recent user queries, or it matches actual result in your application data. So we will cover these things in a bit more detail later on in this presentation. It also provides what is called a quick search box. This is a way that you can allow a user to perform a search outside of your application, especially home screen. Again, we'll talk about this quick search box, QSB, in a bit more detail in a later presentation. Okay, so when we say search framework, the actual component of the framework is actually a search manager. So it is the search manager that manages the search dialog. So it is the one that actually creates a search dialog box for you, managing the lifecycle of it. So what it does is that when a user typed in query string here, and then when user clicked this search icon, that's the time the search manager of the framework captures the query string, and it actually creates an intent object, and then it passes the intent object that contains a search query string to your application, meaning your search query, your activity in your application. By the way, the activity that actually receives the search query string from the search manager is called the searchable activity. And there is a way that you can designate an activity as a searchable activity, and we'll talk about that. So let's go to the steps of implementing search functionality in your application. It is pretty straightforward. So you want to create, first of all, searchable configuration XML file. And then you're going to create an activity and declare that activity as a searchable activity class. So again, the searchable activity is the one that receives the search query string from the search manager of the framework. And you also designate an activity or set of activities that function as searchable context. And you have to declare this set of activities as searchable context in the Android manifest XML file. So let's talk about each of these steps in a bit more detail, looking at example code. Okay, first, create the searchable configuration. So it is an XML file that defines several settings of your search dialog in your application. So this is the way that you can customize your search dialog. And the file is named as searchable.xml and must be located on the res/xml directory. So let's see an example searchable.xml file. So it has a label, it has a hint. So this hint is used to fill up the query string search, fill up the search dialog initially, and then you can enable voice search, and you can specify searchable suggestion information. So as you can see, searchable configuration XML file, searchable.xml file, is basically a meta XML file that describes your search dialog and search functionality. Okay, then you have to create searchable activity, and of course this is activity you have to declare in the Android manifest XML file. So just let's talk about the searchable activity one more time in a bit more detail. So searchable activity receives the search query string from the search manager of the framework, and then actually perform the search and also display the search results. So when user executes a search from a search dialog, meaning the user fill up the search dialog box and press the search icon, the search manager sends the search query to your searchable activity with intent, and the action field of that intent object is set with action search action. And then your searchable activity will perform the search against the data it has and then present the result. So you have to declare your searchable activity in the manifest XML file with action search intent as a filter. So let's see an example. So if I want to make this activity, my searchable activity, as a searchable activity, then I have to have intent filter that has an action with this action search. Okay, concept of searchable context. The search dialog is not by default available from every activity of your application. Meaning, suppose there is an activity in your application in which if a user press a search key, if you want to have a search box, the search dialog to be displayed, then you have to declare it as a searchable context. If it is not declared as a searchable context, then search dialog will not get displayed even if user pressed the search key. So this is a bit of repeat of what I just said. So search dialog is presented to users only when they invoke a search, meaning press a search key from a searchable context of the application. So searchable context is defined as an activity for which you have declared searchable metadata in the manifest file. So basically, this explains how you make an activity as a searchable context activity. So let's see how we can do that. So here, I have my searchable activity as a searchable activity. At the same time, I'm making it as an activity of searchable context activity by having this metadata. So when a screen is presenting UI from this activity, and if a user presses a search key, then search dialog will get displayed. On the other hand, this activity, so when there is a screen presented by this activity, even if a user presses a search key, search dialog will not get displayed because this activity is not searchable context activity. Now, if you want to make all of the activities in your application, so in this case we have two activities. If I want both of these activities to be searchable context activity, then I can have a metadata outside of those activities like this. So metadata and the name is searchable, default searchable, and then you also specify your searchable activity with Android value attribute. So if you have this line, then what it means is that I'm making all the activities in my application to be searchable context. So hopefully you got the idea of what searchable context activity is. Okay, so let's actually run the first and second application of the hands-on lab, that is a Hello World 1 and Hello World 2. So in Hello World 1, we have a single activity that performs both as main activity and searchable activity, and also searchable context activity. In Hello World 2, we have a main activity and searchable activity separated out. So in Hello World 2, we have two activities. Okay. So let's run the searchable search Hello World application. So let's take a look at the Android manifest XML file here first. So in this case, we have a single activity called Hello World main, and then we have two intent filters. One is designating it as main activity, and then we have another filter that designates it as searchable activity, meaning this is the activity that receives search query string from the framework and then performs a search functionality. And then I have a metadata inside of this activity. So here this is designating this activity as a searchable context activity, and here we specify the searchable.xml file. So let's take a look at the searchable XML configuration file. So it's res and XML, searchable XML. So here's a very simple searchable.xml file. So it has just a label and it has a hint. So this search hint is, in this case, is search demo hint. Okay. So let's run this application. Oh, okay, so it is already run. Yeah, so this is search Hello World application that is already running. So in this case, if I press search key like this, then you will see search dialog to be presented to the user. And as you can see, this search demo hint string is from the strings.xml file that we just have seen. Okay, so if I say maybe game, and if I perform search by pressing this search icon, then it will perform the search. In this case, our search logic is very simple. It just displays a toast message. So let's take a look at the actual code. Hello world main.xml file. So here when search icon is pressed, this searchable activity instance gets created again. So here it's receiving intent from the search manager. So what it does is that it calls a get intent method to get the intent object, and then it actually gets the action information from the intent object, and then it basically compares whether that action is what is it's looking for, action search. If that's the case, by the way, the query string is maintained. It is actually provided in extra field. So it calls a getString extra, and then you get the query string, and then basically we just display the toast message, and then we call our dummy perform search and show result method. So in our case, we are not doing any real serious search. Instead, we just display toast message with a query string. So you can see this is actually very simple. Now in this case, this activity functions as a main activity as well as a searchable activity. And what happens is that if you take a look at, I have a logging message. So the first time this application gets executed, this portion of the code will be executed. So you will see this logging message. And then when the user presses the search icon after entering a search query string, this activity object, because it's a searchable activity object, gets created again. So you're going to actually see this logging message one more time. And now this one, and it will also see this message. So if you take a look at the logging message, you can see this is the time that a search user pressed the search icon. Okay, so Hello World 2 is, in this case, it works pretty much the same. However, in this case, we have two activities. So in this case, we have a main activity that just functions as a main activity. And then we have a second activity called Hello World activity. Now performs as searchable activity because it has intent filter with this action search, and it also has this metadata. So this is also functions as the searchable context activity. And now we also have metadata outside of this activity. So in fact, all of these activities are searchable context activities. Okay, so moving forward. Let's talk about how to write searchable activity. So in this case, we are going to look into how to perform search functions, search functions in your searchable activity. So first, you have to receive the query string. So we have seen some code of receiving the query from the intent object, and then we are going to perform actual search and presenting the result. Okay, so receiving the query. So when user executes a search from the search dialog, meaning press the search icon after filling up the search dialog with query string, Search Manager sends action search intent to your searchable activity. So this is something we already talked about. And then the intent object carries the search query in the extra field of the intent. Now, it is in the form of key value pair, and the key is search manager query. Okay. So this is a code that we have seen in Hello World 1. So again, we check whether action is action search. If that's the case, we are going to provide a key, search manager query key, and then call string extra, and then we get the the query string, and then we actually perform the query. The search with the query. Okay, then in your code you are going to actually search against the data that you have. So the process of searching your data, the actual logic of searching your data is unique to your application, meaning that's application specific. These are a couple of best practice guidelines that are kind of obvious. So if your data is stored in the database on the device, and in that case performing a full text search provides much better performance than like a kind of query. And if your data is stored online, because it might take some time to actually perform the search, you might want to display a spinning progress so that user is being informed on what's going on. So this is an example code. So in this search and show result method, I'm actually using content provider to actually perform the query operation. Okay. but again, this logic is completely up to individual application. You might perform web service, and you might have some information in your file, so you took whatever measure to perform the search. Okay, step 3, once you got the search results, you might want to present it to the user. So regardless where the data lives and how to search it, you recommend you return result, search result to a searchable activity with an adapter. So we have covered the concept of UI adapter before. So basically you are going to use list view with an adapter. Adapter could be either typically the cursor adapter, or it could be custom adapter. Okay, so let's talk about how we can invoke search dialog in different ways. So there are 3 different ways that search dialog gets displayed to a user. So the search manager displays the search dialog when user clicks the search key. So this is something we have seen so far. Now there are 2 other ways that search dialog could be presented to a user. So in fact, your activity itself can trigger the display of search dialog by calling on search requested method. So this is typically happening when you present a UI, a button UI or menu UI, where when it is pressed, that's the time the search dialog will be presented to a user. So in that case, you, meaning your application, can call on search requested, and that will display the search dialog. Another scheme is type to search functionality, which basically reveals the search dialog when user starts typing on the keyboard. Okay, so we'll talk about these 2 schemes in a bit more detail. So we are going to talk about the second scheme first. So search key versus search button UI. So search key is something that we have seen in previous presentation in the part of the first part of this presentation. So most Android devices should have dedicated search key. However, you should not assume it has it, because there might be devices that doesn't have search key. So in that case, you want to present search button UI or search menu UI. So when the button, search UI button, is pressed, then it is your responsibility to trigger the display of search dialog. So how you do it? Basically, you're going to call this method, on search requested method. And you can also enable type to search functionality, as we talked about. And in order to enable this type to search functionality, you are going to just call this method, set default key mode with default keys search local, in your activity. Now, when you call on search requested method, then it will display the search dialog. You can also override it in order to provide custom search behavior. So some of the custom search behavior, so this is the customization that we talked about. Some of the customization behavior of the search dialog would be something like you can provide search context data. So this context data could be something that provides more fine-grained information so that your search logic can use it to perform more intelligent search. You can prefill search query string. So you can in fact prefix it, you can postfix it. So if the user type XYZ, you might want to prefix some value like ABC or something like that. And you can also do some more exotic things such as global search, or you can even block search entirely by simply returning false. So you can think of overriding this on search requested method is almost like a servlet filter for performing the HTTP request operation. So unless it's overwritten, it's basically calling start search. Okay, so you override onSearch requested method to perform customization behavior. Okay, so passing context data. So this is something I just briefly mentioned, this one. So again, you can pass this context data by overriding onSearch requested method. So when to pass context search data? To refine your search criteria from your current activity instead of depending on only on user search query string. So when it's actually useful when your search criteria varies from one searchable context to another. For example, maybe you probably provide context data indicating whether the search is done in the morning or in the afternoon, and you might actually do search differently. So this is the code how you can pass search context data. So this code is inside your own search requested method. I'm sorry, so this is actually you are overriding on search requested method. So this is how you are going to construct a bundle object in which you are going to add context data. So we have two context data. One is a Boolean data, and the other one is a string data. And then you call start search method. And so now this is how you are going to leverage the context data that is passed to you in your activity, in your searchable activity. So basically you are going to read that bundle, and then you are going to read the data that was passed in that bundle as a context data. Okay, now adding recent query suggestions. So this is another big topic, how you can add suggestions. So what is a suggestion? It's basically whenever user types something, it will the suggestions are being presented to user. So in this case, if user searched the puppies in the past, that will be saved into suggestions list, and then next time user type P, it will be presented to user as a suggestion. So this is how you are going to provide the suggestions functionality. So first step is create content provider that extends search recent suggestions provider class. So this is a utility class. This is a content provider class that actually maintained suggestions. And then you are going to add information to the content provider to the I see. So the second step is you're going to specify, you have to declare your content provider, the suggestions content provider, to the searchable configuration, searchable.xml file. And step 3 is you have to also add logic in your code for saving queries to your content provider each time a search is executed. And step 4, as an optional step, you can provide a code for clearing saved queries. So let's talk about each of these steps in a bit more detail. So before we do that, let's talk about search suggestions mechanisms. So when Search Manager identifies that your activity is a searchable activity, so Search Manager knows that because you specify an activity as a searchable activity in your manifest XML file, and provide search suggestions, the following procedure takes place as soon as user types into search dialog. So as soon as a user types some character, Search Manager takes a search query string, whatever that has been typed up to that point, and performs a query to the content provider that contains your suggestions. So it will talk to the content provider, give me the list of all the suggestions. And the content provider then returns a cursor object that points to all suggestions that have been collected up to that point, and then Search Manager displays the list of suggestions provided by the cursor. So that is what happens here. Okay. Okay, so moving forward, the first step, you have to create and declare content provider, searchable the content provider, the search suggestions content provider. So content provider that you need for, so this is the content provider that you need for recent query suggestions must be, so this is must be implementation of search recent suggestions provider. Actually, it doesn't have to be. You can directly implement content provider class, and then you have to actually implement a lot of methods. So it's recommended that you extend the search recent suggestions provider class. So as a utility class, it does everything for you. So all you have to do is to write a constructor that executes one line of code, as we see in the following slide. So suppose this is my suggestions provider. I extend search recent suggestions provider, and basically in the constructor I'm going to call setup suggestions. That's all you have to do. Because this is a content provider, you have to declare it in your Android manifest file using provider element. So you provide you specify this provider with content provider authorities. So this is something that we learned in content provider topic. Step 2 is add information on suggestion provider to searchable configuration. So you have to declare, you have to specify your searchable search suggestions content provider in your searchable XML file with this. So search suggestions authority and with your content provider class. Step 3 is then you have to add code for saving queries. So whatever query string that was typed in by your user, you want to save it as the suggestion. So basically, you are going to call save recent query method each time your searchable activity receives a query. Okay, so let's see the code. So we verify that action is action search, and we got the query string, and then we got the search recent suggestions object and from the provider, and then we call the save recent query method passing query string. So at this point the query string is now being saved as one of the suggestions. Now this is optional step, so you can add code of clearing the suggestion data, meaning the list of suggestions that have been collected up to that point. So the reason you want to provide this clearing suggested data functionality is to protect users' privacy, and in order to do that, you are basically calling clear history method. So this is what you do. So you got the suggestions object, and basically you're going to call clear history method. So typically this functionality will be triggered by UI, like a menu item or a preference item or even a button. I'm going to actually demonstrate exercise 3 and 4 after the presentation. So let's move on. Okay, the concept of quick search box. So what is a quick search box? It is a system-wide search framework. It's available outside of the application, typically from a home screen. So on OS platform like a Mac and Windows, there is actually system-wide search box, right? You just type anything, and then it will quickly display anything that is relevant to whatever you typed in. So it makes it possible for users to quickly and easily find what they are looking for, both on their devices and on the web. So it could suggest content on your device as you type, like application, context, and browser history, and music, and stuff like that. And it also offers results from web search suggestions, like a local business listing, and from Google and things like that. So again, this is something that you are familiar with on Mac search and Windows search, and Android platform has this quick search box as well. So you just type anything, and it will just display whatever that might be relevant to whatever you typed in at this point. It could be a contact information, it could be some application, it could be, in this case is another contact. Here it could be, let's say, the Google map, or the something that you searched it before, and things like that. Now, how you are going to enable the search results from your application to be included in the quick search box. Typically it's going to be an application or the web browser, the result, and things like that, but you want some of your results of your particular application to be also listed as suggestions in quick search box. So this is how you do it. All you have to do is basically having this attribute to your searchable XML, searchable the configuration file. So Android : include global search to true. And then there is one more thing you have to do. You have to enable this this functionality from the system setting. So let's actually see that in a bit more detail. So first of all, your application will have this attribute, Android include global search equals true. Okay, so when you have it, then Android platform at least make your application as a candidate for this quick search box, the functionality. Now you have to configure the searchable items settings. So as you can see, if your searchable settings, the web, application, contact, these are the things that are the whatever search you have done with these these applications will be in quick search as a suggestions in the quick search box. Now I can enable my application to be the candidate as well. Okay, like this. Alright, so I'm going to stop right here. Actually, I'm going to just talk one more thing, and then we'll stop the presentation, and then we'll do the hands-on lab. So search dialog it has no impact to the activity stack, so it doesn't have any impact to the activity lifecycle. And the rest of the presentation is on how to add voice search. Okay. Alright, so that's the end of the presentation. So let's go to the hands-on lab. So I'm going to explain exercise 2, exercise 3, and exercise 4. Okay, so let's take a look at the hands-on lab. So we have done exercise 1. So we are going to move on to exercise 2. So this application is search dictionary sample application, in which you type in query string, and then it will search for against the dictionary. So let's just run that application, and then we are going to spend some time learning the internals of that application. So the application is called Search SDK, Searchable Dictionary. This is the sample application that comes with Android SDK. So there are actually two control flows. We are going to take a look, and we are going to look into the files. Okay, so here we are going to press the search key, and we have search the dictionary hint, and then we type maybe A, and then we are going, this is the first flow, we are going to click this search icon, and then we have list view of all the words that start with this A. Now if you click any of these words, then you get the definition of that word. So that's the first flow. Now let's go to the second flow. So again we are going to click search key, and this time again we are going to type A, and then we are going to select from the suggestion. Okay, so this time we are going to click suggestion, and we got the definition of the word. So that's the second workflow. So let's take a look at some configuration files, Android manifest XML file, and then we'll take a look at the search.xml file. Then we are going to use the documentation to look at the code. So this is Android manifest XML file of this application. We'll take a look at the source file, maximize it. So here we have two activities. So the searchable dictionary main activity, and so this is the intent filter that designates this activity as main activity, and then it also handles search request, meaning this is a searchable activity, and then we have metadata information, searchable.xml file, and then we have word activity that displays a word. And then we have a dictionary provider, content provider. So this is the content provider that provides a list of words. And then we have a metadata that designates all the activities in this application to be searchable context. And let's take a look at the searchable.xml configuration file. So here we have searchable, we have search suggestions, search suggestion related attributes, and then we also made it this one as a global search, meaning this application can participate in the quick search box. Now I'm going to use the documentation to explain the flow control. So flow control 1, this is you are going to click the search key. So okay, so when you run the application, basically it's going to use layout main resource file and just display it. So nothing really unique about this. Now you're going to click search key, and so you got search dialog being displayed. So you type A, and then you click search icon here. So at this point what happens is that the search manager of the framework will create an intent object and will send it to searchable activity, which is this activity, searchable dictionary main. So it gets the intent object, and then if it is search intention, then it gets the query string by calling get string extra, providing this one as a key, and this is the value which represent query string, and then you're going to call perform search and show results method, calling query string. So this is your own method which we are going to see later on, and then it will display a list of words. Okay, so that's basically from this method we just saw. So it basically calls the content manager, the content provider, and it gets the cursor object, and then it's going to use list view with a cursor object, and then that's what gets displayed here. Okay, so this code is probably something that we are familiar with if you're using, if you have learned content provider subject. Okay. And then when you select one of the words in the list view, then you got the definition. So this is the event handler when an item in the list view gets selected. So it is on item click method, and it basically create intent object. This is explicit intent, so you specify world activity.class as a target class, and then you also provide the URI as a data, and then you start the activity. So world activity class will be the target activity that gets displayed. So this is world activity screen. So world activity is basically setting the content view with a word, and then is just getting those two strings. One is a text and one is a definition. One is the word, the name of the word, and the other one is the definition of it. Okay, so that's what gets displayed here. So pretty straightforward. And now if you click menu here, then you're going to see this menu item being displayed. So world activity also has this menu support with on create option menu and on create on options item selected. So when you select this one, then now this time it will call on search requested method. So this is an example where you are going to trigger the display of the search dialog by calling on search requested method. So that's what gets displayed here. Okay, so flow control 2 is when you select when you type A, there are suggestions being displayed, and you're going to select one of those suggestions, and then you see the display of the word and definition. So in this case, this is the searchable dictionary main activity. So when you select a word from the suggestion list, what happens is that the search manager will create intent object and will send it to searchable activity with action view action. So here we are basically checking whether intent object is action view or not, and if that's the case, we are basically calling world activity as a target activity and displays. Okay, so this is a bit more simple. Okay, exercise 3 is different ways of invoking search. So here we are going to exercise different search features. Here we are going to learn how to create and how to save suggestion list, and we are going to also learn how to override on search requested method by providing some context data and also pre-fill query string and things like that. Okay, so let's run the application. Search invoke, run the application. Okay, so let's run the application. So search invoke, right click and run as Android application. Okay, so we have a few different options. So we can try here search key and menu item and type to search. So we're going to try the search key first. So either you can click this button, UI button, or you can press search, and then it will display search dialog, and that's something that we have seen so far. Okay, and you can also have a pre-fill query, and this is something that gets pre-filled in the query dialog box, search dialog. And this is app data. This is going to be something that could be saved as context data. Okay, so let's click on search request method. Here maybe I'm going to type it, maybe Java passion 3 and click search icon. So in our case, it's not doing anything really specific, just displaying the new activity page, finding activity that display a screen that just display the query string, nothing really fancy. Okay. Now behind the scene, this JPassion 3 is saved into suggestions list. Okay. So let's take a look at that code first. So when you click that on suggested requested UI button, we are basically calling on search requested method ourselves, and we also override. We have also overwritten on search requested method to provide some custom behavior. So we have prefill string, just getting the prefill string. And then we also create a bundle object in which we are going to save it as context data. And then we call start search, passing that context data in the form of a bundle object. So when a user types something and click this search icon, this is basically the code gets executed. So this is Android manifest XML file. So we have search request, search query result activity, which is functioning as a searchable activity, and also we provide metadata information. We also provide the searchable context metadata information. So if you take a look at the search query string, search query result activity, that is the searchable activity that receive that query string that we passed through start search method on the on search requested method. So let's see what we do here. So here we are basically calling do search query method, having the query action, just comparing the action is whether a search action or not, and then this is the to search query method. So here is an example where we are adding the query into suggestion list. Okay, so we get the suggestion object, search recent suggestion object, and then we are calling save recent query method to save query string. So later on you will actually see JPassion 3 in our example to be listed as one of the suggestions. And here we are receiving the context object that was passed as part of the intent object. Okay, so we just collect those things, and then we are actually doing our search. So in our case, the search logic is nothing really special. We are just displaying the string. Okay, so typically this is the way you are probably calling your data provider logic for performing some search, but in our case it's very simple, just displaying query string. And now if you click the back button, and now we are going to try. Oh, okay, so now when you click back button, you are going to see this JPassion 2. In this example, I mean this documentation is being displayed as the search suggestion. So in our case we type JPassion 3, so let's try that. Go back button, and now we are going to try either this one or this one. Let's try the search key, and now you should see JPassion 3 as the suggestion, because that's something that we just save into suggestions list. Okay, and you can see the logging message. in this example is JPassion 2. So this logging message, I believe, is actually when we save it. When we actually saved it. Okay, so this is a logging message. So this logging message logs a query string whenever that query string is being saved in the suggestions. So that code is right here. So this is whenever we are saving the query string by calling save recent query method, we are logging that query string. Okay. Next one is menu item. So this is pretty straightforward. So I'm going to just use this documentation to explain it. So this is an example where you could have a menu item to trigger search dialog box to be displayed. So here you select menu item, and then you are going to click menu button here, and so the code is basically when menu button is clicked, we are going to call onSearchRequested method ourselves, and that will trigger search dialog to be displayed. So when you click it, it displays search dialog. So pretty straightforward. Now control flow type to search. So here we are going to select type to search. So let's actually run the application. Okay, so I'm going to rerun the application because I just closed it. So in this case, when you have a type to search capability, whenever a user type a character, it will automatically trigger search dialog to be displayed. Okay, just like this. Now let's see what the application is up and running. Okay, so we are going to select type to search like this, and now we want to type something, but because the cursor focus is right here, you want to move this guy, the focus, to be someplace else. So just press this one to move the cursor. Now if you type a character like Y, and you can see search dialog will be displayed with the character pre-filled. Okay, so this is type search functionality. So in this case, the only thing you have to do to enable this type to search capability is by calling set default key mode with this value. Okay,